All right, so this is the 23rd episode of On That Note. I am here with the Vicarious King. He is putting out an EP very, very soon on December 14th. And I wanted to ask him some questions about his process, about his music, and all sorts of stuff like that. So on your Instagram, you've mentioned before that you're not super confident in your singing ability. Mm-hmm. And that singing sometimes is kind of a vulnerable thing for you to do. So I'm curious, why do you feel so driven to do it? And what were some of the challenges you encountered when recording this EP?
It's like, I used to feel not as confident in my singing ability, and then over time I've just, practiced more and more and kind of gotten more into like trying to fine tune my voice and found like muscle memory to make it all work. And now it's like my favorite thing to do. Like I love singing, mm-hmm. and it's wild, totally like 180 from how I used to feel about it, which is a relief. And I feel like that's kind of how I viewed a lot of music and just a lot of creativity. It's just kind of like now that I feel this kind of more natural urge to step in and kind of lean into it, I feel like I get more out of it and I feel more creative with it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's like a bunch of different challenges with like making the album. I tried doing it all with analog tech, and that's just completely foreign to me, but I was just fascinated by it, so I just had to dive in and try it. So everything on there is recorded completely on the tape. And then I just like digitally tried to edit it from there in Pro Tools, and yeah.
Got it. What tape machine were you using for it?
I can't even remember the name of it, but it's I had this like guitar building class at MCC like 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the guys in there, he was like retired, so he was just kind of taking it very leisurely for the class. And it was like his third or fourth time doing it, so he would just give me a lot of advice and tips on how to like shape the instrument and stuff like that, because I had no idea how to do that either. And we just got into talking a lot, and he told me a lot about like analog tech, and like at the time I was just really into that and wanted to know more about it. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, why don't you come over sometime and I'll show you this stuff. And I think it's a Reebox. I think that's what it is. And he had like two of these things, like two little Reebox players. They're from like the early 60s, German tech. It's really cool. It's all like self-cleaning, so like after a while all the gears finally just like work themselves through.
Self-cleaning.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When I first got it, to finish that thought, he was really nice, and he actually ended up giving me one of the machines, because he's just like, yeah man, I'm not using this and you seem really into it, so you should just take it and try to make things with it. So I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then along those lines too, so you're someone who, obviously this is your solo kind of endeavor, and you're in multiple bands and have other projects as well going on. So, and it's kind of different for everybody, but how do you differentiate an idea that you come up with between like something that's for your solo Vicarious King project or something that might fit elsewhere? Like what kind of classification, so to speak, would go into those kinds of ideas?
Well, I like to, at least as a musician now, I like to be in different groups that have completely different styles. Mm-hmm. So that way I don't have to worry about like the blend of like, well, maybe it'd be good for this project or this one. It's like totally different things. Like I like being able to go outside for that reason, because we can just be like loud and just in your face about everything. And then I also like, I do like a lot of like hip hop collaborations as well. And that's, obviously completely different worlds in that sense too. So pretty much anytime I come up with something for Vicarious, I'm either like on an acoustic guitar and I'm like, oh, this is kind of a cool idea, or just something I feel like I wouldn't know how to pitch to another band, where I'm like, well, I feel like this might work for me then. So
that's a good process of elimination. I couldn't bring this to anybody else, so I guess it'll have to be mine. That's good though. And then during Varnish and Charm, which is one of the tracks off the upcoming EP, there's this really interesting 2-chord progression where you're going from like C major 7 to D dominant flat 9. I don't know if you know the specific type, the part we're talking about over your head.
Is that in the bridge?
I think it's before the bridge. It's like at the 1.5 mark. Okay. But it just sits on that 2-chord vamp where it's like that major sound and then into that kind of more dissonant sound.
Oh yeah.
Which is a really interesting progression for a lot of reasons. One of which being you hang on that dissonant chord for a full 2 bars on it, where it's like really like, dang, like this is like, we've arrived at this spot and we're not leaving here anytime soon. So I was curious, how did that specific progression come about, and why did you feel the need to include it like that?
So as all acoustic guitar songs go, it's about a girl. And I wanted to start it off, the first chord progression being like the most basic sounding, a 3-chord chord progression, in the attempt that maybe if someone heard it, they'd be kind of compelled to listen to it. And then I was like, from there, I just want to do my own thing completely. And then once people are kind of reeled in, then it's just kind of like, all right, cool, I've gotcha. Now I'm going to like show you some really cool ideas I have.
Okay.
So I tried kind of letting loose and doing like completely different chord changes. When I first started getting really into this project, especially when I put out my first EP, it doesn't really show too much in the first one, but definitely more in this one. I was very influenced by Elliott Smith. So I used to be like super into his music. And I remember an interview we had one time where he was saying that he also had not a whole bunch of theory knowledge, but what he would do is he would just like kind of stare at the wall or just kind of stare off while he was playing, and just kind of let his fingers kind of fall on the fretboard in a way that he could kind of figure out different chords, whether they're dissonant or, you know, not, and just kind of all over the place. So it was very much that kind of similar writing style. I was very inspired by that, so that's where that progression came from.
Cool. And yeah, it definitely struck me as very unique in context of the part that came before it. So I was definitely it stuck out to me and was very interesting. During the Bridge of Light Post, you got a ton of those noise, car horns, traffic sounds, all that kind of stuff. So kind of dissect what exactly are we hearing there, and then why did you feel like that fit thematically with the music that you were making there?
I actually recently just changed that name to it's gonna be Street Side Solace now.
Okay, got it.
I thought that was a little flashier, but
alliterative, you know.
Yeah, you know, but I also just really love doing like sound design and trying to make soundscapes, and this was the first time I tried to implement that creatively. So I ended up just taking like my H4n Pro and went to the overpass.
Zoom gang.
Hashtag Zoom. I went to the overpass by my house over by Tobacco Row on like Rule, and I just took that, and like it was like 1 a.m. or something, and I was like mildly drunk, but I walked there, just so you know, Mom. And I, you know, just stuck the thing over there, and then just got like a really cool kind of stereo feel of like the rushing of cars. And then on top of that, I also got all my roommates to help me out, and we all just like sampled our horns, and I just kind of pieced all of that together. The idea of the song is like having a kind of 180 realization with life, literally just at, you know, like the street side, and having, I feel like you know, the sound design of the cars kind of puts that together in the bridge when everything seems very chaotic. It's just having that like that almost breakthrough, and then finally like breaking the mold of like, you know, what your mindset has been for so long, and then kind of returning, and that's why it kind of breaks down into like a little acoustic part. Yes,
and then it goes from a very, very noisy section to a much calmer section, obviously made more, I wouldn't want to use the word jarring, but more impactful, I would say, by that, you know, reduction of all of that street stuff that you were talking about, which is cool. Now, one question that I've been curious about is, what would you say, because this is going to be your second EP, right? And how long ago was the other one recorded?
It was about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it's been some time.
Yeah, been a chunk of time. So I'm curious, you mentioned feeling, I think, more confident in your voice than you might have back then. But what are some other big differences between what we're going to hear on this upcoming EP and what we heard on the last one?
I think the major thing is like the style of recording changed a lot. I wanted to, the first one I did was a few songs I was writing, you know, probably like finished up like high school, starting college, just had like a few ideas that I just wanted to put out. And this is kind of more themed, I would say, for this new one, where it's kind of more like about me. I named the last song on the track, or on the record, INFJ, because that's my Myers-Briggs, and that's what I'm gonna name the album as well. So I just want it to be like, this is, you know, who I am, and like these are some trials that I've gone through and experienced, and I want to be able to kind of share that with people. So this one's a lot more personal. It's a lot less trying to like write like catchy things. It's just very I try to be more I don't know, like real with myself, to try to, you know, show that to other people. Got it.
Cool. And then the two questions that I normally ask at the end, I did already ask you, but we'll kind of retread over some of them a little bit. Particularly the one about if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice. In the previous podcast we just did with Go Outside, which we recorded, 10 minutes ago, you had mentioned one thing, but if you had anything to add to that, what would it be?
Okay. Anything that you set your mind to create and you want to show people and put out there, finish it and put it out there. If there's lingering fears and doubts, it's not important. What matters is your progress. If you can provide that and show people that you're trying to create, you will get to that high mountain point that you're looking for. Like that thing that we create in our mind, that like perfect vision and album and music, phenomenon shit, like you'll get there, but like you got to take the steps to do it. So finish what you start and you will get to where your goal is.
That was good. That was very succinct. I liked that. And then on top of that, one other kind of wrapping up question I would have is, you're someone who has their feet in a lot of projects, whether it's multiple bands, solo stuff. You're also an audio engineer. You also do a lot of video production work and stuff with your Crunch Time Presents folks.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of hands and feet. I'm playing Twister,
Yes, exactly. So two big questions out of that. One, of those projects, and it might be like ranking children, but which one are you most proud of or is most important to you? And actually, we'll start there before I ask two questions at the same time.
Damn. I mean, it's hard to say. I feel like there's anything that you try to put time into, you're going to have good moments and bad moments. So I've had so many proud moments with like all of the projects I've been a part of. And then obviously, there's been some parts where it's not always great. Mm-hmm. So it would kind of be like kids. It'd be hard to kind of pick what my favorite thing is that I create. I think just simply the fact that I'm in a mindset where I can create and have the means to do so freely, mm-hmm. and have so many wonderful friends that let me collaborate with them, would be the greatest of all.
So. Yeah, that's well put. And then the second question based off of that is, how do those things, maybe let me ask that a different way. Obviously all of those things inform each other, right? So the things you're doing with Crunch Time affect the music that you're making, and the things that you're making with your music affect who you're collaborating with for shooting videos, and maybe who you're audio engineering for and all that jazz. But what is a time in your recent past where something has happened in a Crunch Time video and it has directly linked to something and been like, all right, this is going to change the way that I write this song, or vice versa?
I think what I like to kind of just mainly focus on the crunch time aspect, mm-hmm. what I like the most about it is that sometimes when we reach out to people, or I'll reach out to people, or they'll reach out to us, it's like I don't always know the person personally. Mm-hmm. So it could be, a stranger that I've seen them play shows, and I know that they're doing things. So it's always interesting to kind of meet people kind of with the mask off, mm-hmm. and you get to know them more, and you kind of see a little bit into their world and their process of how they kind of mentally prepare themselves and kind of psych themselves up almost, mm-hmm. to be like the performer. Mm-hmm. So I find that to be pretty inspiring.
Yeah, cool. And I could definitely see how that would affect other things as well. It's nice. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, give us a little bit more details on the EP, the release show, anything else you have to promote as well.
Sweet. Varnish and Charms, first single. It's going to be coming out next Friday. You know how that distribution stuff goes. They're like, yeah, we'll get in the next week or two. So, mm-hmm. One of those. And then INFJ is going to drop by the end of the year for sure. Okay. Hopefully you're going to try to do that on a cassette release, getting some shirts screen printed by my dude Ben. Thank you, Ben. Along with that, playing a release show at Tobacco Road, December 14th. I don't know, just stick around, check out the page on Instagram. I'm trying to hype that up a little bit more for future records. I want to try to keep this going. So expect some more music coming out early spring.
Awesome. Thank you for sitting down with me. Mm-hmm.